Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host Alex, and with me I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty good. Able to come on after to pick up 4 points in 2 games is not too bad. I'm starting to feel bad for Mike, who seems to come on after we have a few run of losses. We alternate, and I come on, preview a couple of games that I think we go all right. We go terrible. He comes on after the losses, and I mean, he's finally
He's broken his
broken.
curse.
He's
He's
broken.
broken
The
his
curse
curse.
is over. Curse is
Yeah,
over.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's good. But
I was going to say, I mean, I almost named the episode "The Curse is Broken" because I retweeted out this morning. I'd had the list of bad losses that we'd had after Mike had been on podcast episodes, and this time he's actually had our second clean sheet of the season against Millwall and our win against Cardiff to review. So not a bad couple of results from him. But yeah, we'll start with that Millwall game. First clean sheet since Preston, I think, on the second or third weekend of the season. I think I said last week that actually almost the most impressive result Rosie could get in his first game would be a 0-0 because we've had the 4-3 wins or the bad losses and things like that, and it'd actually be most impressive just to see him keep a clean sheet. So to manage it with 10 men, no less, is a pretty remarkable effort.
yeah, look, I think with in the short amount of time that he's had to work with the players in the lead up to these few games, he's done sensational. And it's interesting that like obviously Dawson's still there as a part of the setup, but that even Rosie took over and basically said like the same stuff. He's looking for heart, desire, energy, effort, like just those the cliches really. But I think finally it was a game where things weren't going our way, but we were able to dig in and fight and show all of that, that heart and effort and resilience that so many times this season we haven't shown, where things have gone against us, whether that is a goal or a decision or whatever, and we've just capitulated. So it was nice to see what was not necessarily the prettiest game of football to watch from a City perspective, but we got the job done. We secured a point against the odds, really.
Yeah, and at a tough place to go. I mean, Millwall have a great home record. We saw Greaves shifted back to left back, which, I mean, is more and more starting to look like that could end up being his natural position. He's having a great season at left back.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like every season we uncover a new gem at left back. Because Elder came and we were really impressed with him, and then Fleming got his chance in the team and we were really impressed with him, and now Greaves has had a shot out there and we're really impressed with him at the moment too. So, it's I guess just another one of those things where you've got some versatility in your players where they can play in potentially a couple of different positions, and I think it's a positive for us. That means that everyone's like fighting, even if our left backs are injured or like one of them's injured. It doesn't mean that Fleming or Elder is like guaranteed of a spot. They're still now fighting with Greaves, or Greaves is fighting to hold that left back position.
Yeah. And on the other side, Christie's starting to look better and better game by game. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago against Huddersfield where we were questioning whether he could back up and play 2 games in a week, and he's pretty much now down that right back spot now. I mean, Coyles came off the bench this morning against Cardiff, but Christie's looking really assured there.
Yeah, I think he seems to have really settled in into that spot and into the squad and into the team, and I think I think we all sort of knew that he had quality about him, and just if he could get it to all click and settle in, then he'd be fine. But I think his work rate, his the nous that he's got, seems to have in the opposition box and that end of the field as well. Once he overlaps and gets forward, that he's created some goals, scored one or two himself. So he's doing real good stuff. It's still that back post issue that I'm like, I think it was a couple of games ago that he was caught out at the back post, and then but I think it feels like, I mean, it's hard to say because we're so early days with Rosenior in charge, but 4 points from the 2 games, it feels like a step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we did that against Cardiff without Oscar, so got a red card in this game with that high boot challenge. Look, it's one of those ones where it is probably a red card. It's a tough one because you don't tend to see those given necessarily if it's a genuine contest for the ball with clearly no malicious intent, which I think in this case you can say there was no intent there to harm the player. I think you kind of see the ref go over and check on, I think it was Cresswell, the Leeds player on loan, who got hit. He almost goes, I think he goes over to check on him just to check, did he actually make contact? Because I think that was going to make the decisive factor of, well, if he's made contact, then it's a red. If he's missed, then it's just a yellow for the sort of reckless behavior. So it's probably a red in that sense. But it's one of those ones where I can understand why the club is looking to reduce the sentence.
Yeah, look, it was a hard one. I certainly don't envy the refs who have to make decisions like that because I think like you watch the replay and both players only have eyes for the ball. It's not like you couldn't argue that there was any intent or malice behind it. It was just one of those really awkward, unfortunate ones from Oscar that he sort of just happened to get wrong. But I mean, you look at some of the other decisions that were made on the same match day in the same league, and I think it's the same thing we always complain as fans complain about with refs is inconsistency. Inconsistency either from an individual in a game or inconsistency across the league because there were similar challenges that were made elsewhere that were only given yellow cards, and we got the raw deal and had Oscar sent off and slapped with a 3-match ban, which we got to try and fight to overturn now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, even Derby in the FA Cup, I think Rosenior referenced it after the game. There was a particularly bad one that was literally the same day, and nothing happened. You see them in the Premier League. I also find it funny because in the Premier League, in particular, but I think across most leagues, is if you're basically having a shot at goal, the rules seem to go out the window, and you can just do whatever you want with your boot. Which it's one of those funny ones where it seems like there's a foul in a particular context rather than the actual action. But look, we'll see. I think we'll probably find out the next 4 or 5 hours whether that ban got reduced to 1 game or not. I think we were saying before the episode, though, actually, to be fair, looking at the fixtures, the fact that we've got Watford as the first game after the break, I would say that if we can at least get it reduced to 2 games, so we can have him available for Watford, would make a big difference. I'm not as particularly fussed about having him back for Reading. We saw this morning that we're quite prolific with Longman up front, but it would be good to have him back after the break.
Yeah, I think not that there's ever really a good time to get a 3-match ban or whatever, but it feels like leading into the World Cup break and then having this long that month off of league football, and to have our injury list with a few players that are supposed to be getting close to returning after the World Cup break, that might mean that it may not be as big an impact as we think. I mean, we're not really getting super regular updates on how some of these guys are going, but hopefully they're speeding along in their recovery and they're ahead of expected or something, and we can see some of them be back for that Watford game or something, because that would make things a whole lot easier, because we've got so much. It's just every time I think we're going okay, I'm like, this squad's pretty good. Then for a second I think about all of the players that we have just sitting in the bloody medical room.
Well, I mean, it's crazy when you think 16 signings and we're starting Ryan Longman up top, and we only really had Tyler Smith on the bench as a striker. You think we're going to get Ali back after the World Cup break for sure. Tete, who was meant to be out till the new year, looks like he's actually quite close to coming back, and so he might be back in the next 4 or 5 weeks as well. All of a sudden, you just think if we went into that Watford game with Tete and Oscar up top, that's such a different side to the one we've had to be using. And, when we had Tete and Oscar up top together, that was in our best run of form of the season. That's when Oscar was scoring his goals as well. So it would make a huge difference to our prospects.
yeah, I think that. I mean, I hope we just keep doing what we're doing. If we can, I think if we finish off this section of the season, we can get a good result against Reading, which to me is like without getting too far ahead in the process of this, but I feel like we should probably need to pick up another 3 points, and I think it's achievable. We're on building a little bit of form, sort of one of those unfortunate times where we're going to build form and then have a month off, but. I think
always seemed to have. Was it the promotion League One season? It was one of those seasons where it seemed like every time we'd have 3 or 4 wins in a row,
yeah, there was
get on a run,
international break.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of a weird time, but I think that should be the goal. Pick up the maximum points, be on a good run, good vibes, good feeling going into this break. A month of really hard training, working on the play style and the game style, and some of those things that we're probably going to talk about when we talk about Cardiff. Nailed down some of those.
I need the Jose Mourinho gif of if I speak, I'm in trouble, but we'll certainly get to it. But hey, look, also just talking about players, Baxter having a fantastic game against Milwall as well. Fingertip save in the second half. Great kind of collect of the ball in the first half after a great Milwall play as well. And, doing his bit to keep the score at 0-0. Probably come in for a bit of criticism lately. I think there's been a few calls for him to be dropped for Ingram, who didn't put a whole lot of a foot wrong when he was in the side. But yeah, great display from Baxter in this one.
Yeah, no, he was really, really impressive. As you said, a couple of really good saves, really important saves to keep us in it. And I think it was just that I think that was the game where we just actually needed everyone we needed some of those moments to go our way because often enough they don't. But I think he was really impressive, and I think to be honest, he hasn't necessarily been great lately. Some of his decision making, some of the passing and distributions not being great, but I think he thought he was really good against Milwall, and for the most part, or from what I saw of this morning's game, it was pretty good. But I only got to watch half of it, and I unfortunately had to go to work.
Well, yeah, okay. So I'll give my votes for the Millwall game, and I'll grab yours, and then we'll talk about that fantastic, exciting Cardiff display. I gave the 3 votes to Baxter. I thought he was outstanding in defence, keeping the score at 0-0 with those saves as mentioned. Gave the 2 votes to Greaves. I think that move back to left back, he's really making a case for that being sort of his natural position going forward. We'll talk in a bit about that cross for the opening goal this morning as well, which was absolutely brilliant from that left-hand side. And then I've given the 1 vote to Figueiredo, who, look, we'll talk in a second about how he didn't put in such a good display against Cardiff. But I thought, from what I saw of this game anyway, I thought this was basically his best display of the season. So thought I'd give him the 1 vote for recognising that.
Yeah, look, I sort of 100% agree with the 3 and the 2. And honestly, it was one of those games where I feel like we always do. We either had no one or we got everyone for a point. And I'm like, I can't really find. It was hard to pick out, a player who deserved who didn't deserve to at least get some sort of recognition. And in the most cop-out way I can think to do it, I'll just agree with you and go with Figueiredo.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we'll talk the Cardiff game now. And as I said before, I think if I speak on certain topics in this game, I'll be in trouble. But I do want to sort of start this discussion off by, I guess, clarifying or discussing what we're going to talk about in terms of the style of play. Because I think, to be fair, I mean, it was a question put to Rosenior as well by Burnsy. I think there was some good questions and great answers as well from Rosenior on the topic of, playing out from the back as opposed to playing around the back, which is sort of the point I wanted to make now. Is I felt like, especially in the first half, the times when we played around the back, so meaning passing to a defender, back to the keeper, back to a defender, back to the keeper, was when we played ourselves into trouble. And I think there's a point in that where you do have to just go, stuff it. I'm just going to look for a line, or I'm going to look for a winger to try and get the ball up the field and out of danger, because you can't concede a goal if the ball goes out for a throw in on the halfway line. But you can concede a goal if you're dawdling on the ball in your box and the attacker nips in and pinches the ball off you, which is exactly how the second half started. And that was, I sent out a tweet, which I thought was quite a mild or an uncontroversial opinion, but it seemed to sort of blow up on me, to say that, the fact that we did that so repeatedly in the first half and then did it immediately to start the second half to concede the goal was the frustration, because I can imagine that Cardiff manager would have said, they're going to sit on the ball, we've got to press them, we've got to pressure them, we're going to turn the ball over, we're going to get a goal. And this is exactly what we did. And I just sort of hoped that we might have actually sat there and gone, lads, like, you know, find an option. If you don't have an option, you've got to get rid. Like, don't just get caught on the ball, because we got caught too many times. So it's just a bit frustrating. But playing out from the back, fantastic. We got our first goal. We got our second goal from a brilliant bit of play up the field. We looked really attacking and exciting when we were playing it out to the fullbacks and now pushing the ball up the field. Great. The playing around the back, playing back and forth between the players is what I didn't really like.
Yeah, I think it's that idea of, like, you know, the possession for possession's sake. Possession doesn't mean anything unless you're doing something with it. And it's certainly, like, it's almost a whole other extreme. It's working against you if you're, like, keeping it in and, like, keeping it poorly or, like, in poor positions. Because in that first half, there were some great passages of play out of the back where we played it out and we were direct and we looked forward and we played forward. But there were, like, the first 90 seconds, there was, I think, 3 opportunities where we almost gave the ball away to Cardiff. And I think, honestly, in that first half, we're lucky that Cardiff fluffed their lines as many times as they did, because they, you know, almost nicked the ball. I think what their striker received, they pinched it in midfield, played it into Nkunku, someone who in that, like, near the penalty spot, and he, like, stuffed his first touch, and that allowed us to clear it away. Like, we invited a lot of unnecessary pressure. And I think that's the point you're trying to make, is that, like, it's all good to have the style of play, and we, you know, Rosenior wants to hold possession, he wants to play it out from the back, is what he said, but that is not the same as just playing it back and forth across the back line, you know, inviting pressure. Like, that idea of playing it out from the back and holding it at the back is to invite the other team forwards to create more space. But once that space appears, you should then be playing the ball into that space, because that's the whole purpose of getting the strikers to come forward.
And like Rosenior said, like, you want to tire them out, you want to get them chasing the ball, and that's great. And as you said, there were times in the first half and through the game where we looked great, where we were passing the ball around them, great first touches, great passing. That was all fine. It was, you know, I've just praised him, but I think it was a lot of the time Figueiredo who was playing us into trouble, where he'd either hold the ball too long looking for an option and then not finding one and either losing possession, or he'd pass the ball to a fullback whilst they had an opposition player standing right on their back, and that would turn over the ball as well. And so it's absolutely not a criticism of the style of play. I think, I mean, as Rosenior said, I think he's had 3 sessions with them, and it's amazing to see the result already is looking great. It was literally just a comment on, you know, not dawdling on the ball and inviting that sort of turnover, which did happen a number of times in the first half. But look, you know, we'll draw a line on that. We'll talk positives. It was a fantastic result. We did win 3-2. We should focus on the positives in this one, starting with a fantastic ball from Greaves for the first goal.
Yeah, look, I think I know in the chat we were all pretty, once that ball got whipped in, we were all pretty excited. And then at first, like, I think it went past Longman and he sort of didn't quite get there. For half a second, I was like, bugger. And then Pelkas arrived just cool and calm slotted in. And I think I think I said a couple of weeks ago when I was on, I was like, he's got to get a goal soon. He's been so busy trying so hard and doing, like, everything right except, like, just not having the composure on the final touch. And I think he nailed this one.
Yeah. And look, I think he had a terrific game, and he's emerging as almost the most exciting player in the side in terms of the most dynamic, where he had another passage where I think he took the ball forward, he carried the ball forward, and it looked like he was running himself into trouble. And he just kind of slotted this nice, neat sideways pass to Doherty running through to give him a shot at goal, where I just didn't even see that run from Doherty coming. And he's just got that vision and that awareness of the players around him, where I think I said it last week. I mean, he's someone that you feel like he's always trying to make something happen. Like, he's always got that positive front foot, like, approach to his style of play.
Yeah, I think, like, we have lots of, I think it's something that we've talked about. I think I talked about a couple of weeks ago. Is this the idea of balance? Yeah, we've got so many. We actually have quite a few of those players who have great vision and great touch and great skills, but was sort of overloading that, the midfield and the forward and the front line earlier in the season. But I feel like we've sort of got the balance right now with Pelkas as the main sort of like creative outlet, who's sitting in behind. It's Longman at the moment, but sitting in sort of behind the striker and just getting busy and getting into the channels and creating havoc, and whereas, and I do like Tufan, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he doesn't do that part as well. I don't think he gets around as well and as much as Pelkas does, but it sort of seems to work with Pelkas starting and Tufan sometimes like coming on later. But yeah, I think Pelkas has been great, and I think finally, again, just one of those ones that it sort of seems to have taken a little while to settle in and gel with everyone. But I think he's one who is going to have definitely some more impact throughout the second half of the season.
And another player who had a massive impact was won 50 grand Regan Slater, title of the episode. But he was played on the left wing in the first half and actually looked really, really good. He worked a really good cross into the box, which wasn't really finished off. But then he was moved central second half when I think Pelkas went off. And, at 2-1 down, you're sort of thinking, is it going to be a typical sort of City where we've given a first half go of it, we've dropped the 2 goals, we're going to drop our heads and just sort of limp into a 2-1 defeat? And Slater just went, not on my watch, really. The first goal, I mean, I had to watch it again because my first instinct of it was the keeper should be doing better. I thought it was a pretty slow shot. But when you watch it again, he kind of swivels and takes the shot into the bottom corner. Really well taken goal. And then even the second goal, like even better. And to be honest, I thought it was Cynic who was pushing up that wing, but it was actually Tufan who gets the ball and beats a man, gets almost to the byline before getting it across to, I think it's Longman who whips the ball in. And Slater just powers it into the near post. And it's like a really smart finish past the keeper at his near post to give us 2 goals in 2 minutes to give us the lead.
Yeah, look, this is the part of the game that I unfortunately didn't get to watch. I was driving to work, and then I stopped to get coffee, and I looked at my phone, and it was like...
I should have mentioned they've already put the highlights up, so you could have seen them before the...
I tried to look, I couldn't see them.
Yeah, I only saw them just before we went to air, to refresh myself. But you can take my word for it. Two good goals.
I'm sure they were. I'll have a look at them later, but... I just drove to work and I stopped, and then I looked at my phone and I was like, oh, we conceded, and it was all very negative, and we were throwing another thing away. And then I got to work and I looked at my phone and it was yes, and then it was yes and yes and yes and yes and yes, and I was like, Jesus, what's going on? I couldn't tell whether it was all like about one goal or whether it was 2 separate goals. So then I looked up and I was like, oh, we're 3-2 up, interesting. And I was like, 65, 67, holy Jesus, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, just bang, bang. Look, it's that mental resilience that I've referenced a few times this season, that it's felt like we haven't had and we haven't shown, but perhaps I don't know whether it's a new manager, instilling a new sense of belief or something in them or whatever, but they seem to have. I mean, the last couple of games have shown that resilience. One, to not let bad things, like a bad, not necessarily a bad call, but a call that goes against us, affect the way they play the game. Not let them throw away points, and then to dig deep under, again, like circumstances that aren't ideal. Concede the goals, go behind, right, and then to fight back and everything is sensational, and something that we've never really looked that likely of doing this season until now. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say though, I mean, we've done it once under each manager. We did it opening day against Bristol City, who came back from a goal behind to win under Shotter. We did it against Wigan under Dawson, and now we've done it under Cardiff. But I would like it if we were making it more of a habit of it, because as you say, it's like that mentality to come back, we just haven't shown it very often. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's each manager gets one sort of card where they can play the card and get the players to actually dig out a victory from defeat, but it would be nice if we could. Well, look, it'd be nicer if we weren't behind to begin with, but if we are, it'd be nice to see them push through for a result at the end of the game. But look, Slater's just showing he can play pretty much any position he's asked to.
Yeah, I think like it's almost going to go down as like one of the crimes of the like century, like 50 grand for
a championship quality player. 50 grand is just ridiculous.
Right? Like yeah, it's crazy. Like 50 grand is the kind of money you're paying to like you buy like a League One player or something like.
Yeah.
Like
I reckon Wrexham probably spent more money on some players in the National League.
I reckon they spent more on what was that strike? Mullins.
Mullins,
they spent more than 50 grand to get Mullins.
That's right, 100%.
So yeah, it's wild. Like that's such a small amount of money, especially like in football in general, but like especially in like the English leagues. Like it's such a small amount of money, and to have a guy who consistently is one of our better performers, and now is like adding some like adding goals to be. I mean, was it 3?
He doubled his City.
4 now.
He's got 4 goals for City now, so he's doubled his tally in one game.
So I mean, is he prolific? No, but he's a box to box midfielder, and to have 3 or 4 goals in the 2019 or 20 games for this season is not bad really for his style of play. What if he's got more than Honeyman?
Yeah. well, that's 4 goals over his whole time.
But three this season. So,
that's true actually.
Because he got one a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. Cool. Okay. Well, did you want to give your votes for this one first? And if they're just on the first half, that's fine.
So first half, I would have to go Pelkas just on my first half. I'd have to give him a 3 for a nice tidy finish. I'd probably give 2 to Greaves for the delivery, and I'll give 1 to someone else.
Christie, well, we haven't talked about the cross from Christie for Longman, that Longman really should have got on target. That makes it 2-0, makes it a very different game. It was a great cross from Christie, should mention.
Yeah, I'll give a point to Christie. There you go. Problem solved.
There you go. Well, I'll give the 3 to Slater for the 2 goals. Pelkas, but Pelkas at halftime, I was thinking there's no one who's going to beat Pelkas for the votes, because I thought he had such a terrific first half performance. But yes, I'll give him the 2 votes for a great game from him as well. And then I'm giving 1 vote to Cynic, because he sort of came on right around the same time Pelkas went off, when the formation sort of shifted, and he basically took up that left wing spot that Slater had been inhabiting. And it was his ball in to Slater for his first goal, and he was just really sort of active across that front 3. So he's another one who he's sort of slow to get going, but he's sort of starting to get a bit more confidence and get a bit more game time, and starting to look pretty good.
Yeah, he is starting to. I think we've seen sort of flashes so far, but starting to build into like a little bit of form, and again, I think like now he's back from his, or not even back, but now he's into the squad, into the team after his injury. Gelling and understanding his role and the players around him and how they all like operate. I think for the most part, it's you think 16 signings, and you go, a lot of them have actually kind of worked out. Are actually working out at the moment. We go like 6. That's a lot of people to bring in. Like there's been years we've brought 4 players and 3 of them have worked. So
fair point. Like, I mean, to be fair, there's still a few that we haven't seen. So
that is true. But
still waiting for Traore and Salah.
But I think it's been. I think that it's been a nice, like lots of acquisitions, but I think the ones that we've seen so far, I'll preface it like that. The ones that we've seen so far have all seemed to, for the most, have pretty well shown that they're up to it, which was the concern. Everyone's concerns and complaints was that we were bringing all these overseas players that didn't know the championship. We had a manager who didn't know the championship. This, didn't know that, and I think like all of those myths and theories are slowly getting debunked, which is good for us and good for City.
Well, we've changed the manager, which certainly helps.
Well, that is But like the same, complaints were made about Rosenior. We needed an experienced manager who knew the championship, because it doesn't matter whether he's spent the last 4 or 5 years working in the championship.
He doesn't know it. He needs to manage.
Unless he's at the top of the tree, you don't learn about the championship.
That's right. There's secrets that only the manager learns. That's right. Cool. Well, we'll move on. There's not a whole lot of off-field news to discuss. I mean, there's some discussion around who this mysterious assistant manager or managerial assistant coach that Rosenior wants to bring in is, but we'll discuss that more when that appointment's actually made and we can actually have a bit more tangible knowledge of who that is. So we'll just move on to the Who Am I this week, if you're ready to go with that one.
Oh, look, you're not going to double bluff me again, are you? I'm still having nightmares after that.
Right. Okay. I might. I don't know. Maybe I should change it. I'm having second thoughts now. But all right, I'll start off saying I have made 64 appearances for City and I've scored 4 goals.
Slater.
As soon as you started talking about how many goals he scored for City, I went, "Oh no, he's going to get it straight away now." In the double, Regan Slater. There you go. So joined City on loan in 2020 before joining permanently in 2022. I play in central midfield away the number 27. I am Regan Slater. Yeah. I almost went with Greg Doherty this week, and I went, nah, I go with Regan Slater. He's not going to get it straight away. He's going to think it's a double bluff. But you saw through me. Well done.
Look, here's the thing. Only a couple of minutes ago when we were talking about how many goals he's scored, right. You went, he's 4 in his whole career.
I realized as soon as I said it, I was like, I was way too quick to say that. I clearly had that written down somewhere. Although I did see someone say today that when he scored the second, they were like, oh, he's doubled his City tally. So might have known that. But there we go. Well, look, we've only got the one game to preview. It's our final game before the World Cup break, up against a Reading side who have only got 1 win in 9. They did start the season pretty well. I mean, everyone was sort of tipping them to be almost this season's derby, really. A bit of financial troubles. I think they had a transfer embargo, pretty small squad, managed by Paul Ince, who's not, the highest caliber of managers. I think his last job was like 10 years ago or something before the Reading job. But, he's got Tom Ince working pretty well in that midfield for them. He's scoring quite a few goals and they started the season pretty well. I think they were equal top at one point. But yeah, more recently have dropped off a little bit. So probably a pretty good time to be playing them and a good way to sign off before the break.
Yeah, look, I'm feeling pretty good. I reckon, we can extend our new manager bounce out to a third game. And I reckon we can. I think we're playing some really, really good football, and we're playing it more consistently across the 90. There's been patches under all of our managers so far this season, which is a wild thing to say. We're halfway through the season, where there's been patches of really good football, but then there's long periods where we're not competing or not in it at all. But I think, yes, it is early days, and I am willing to concede that it's been 2 games, but it feels like, and maybe it's just a fitness thing, whatever, it feels like we're sort of we're actually competing for the whole 90 now. And that doesn't, I'm not saying we're playing perfect football for that whole 90, but I feel like for the most part, we're not having these huge lapses that take us out of the game for 30 minutes at a time, which are the ones that kill us. Because I think even this morning, we conceded goals, but it wasn't. And I'm just guessing from the feel of it, but it feels like it didn't seem like we were out of the game for a huge extended period, which meant that we still had plenty of time to work with. And admittedly, we seem to hit back reasonably quickly. But I think it's an improved something that I don't know whether it's just hopefully, maybe it's a Rosenior thing. I'll attribute it to Rosenior, anyway, and to say that he's got them working and firing for each other. But I think, look, it's going to be good times. But I'm fairly hopeful and confident that we should be able to get another 3 points and keep moving up the table. I think if we beat them, we'll jump ahead of them. We'll pick up some points. So.
That's right. I think we would, and I think that's what the performance this morning is so valuable for Rosenior in terms of getting his message across. Because, I mean, he sort of talked about the fact that the players are already buying in so quickly, and the fact that we did come back from a goal down to actually win the game gives them that confidence that, you know, if we do keep pushing through, we keep fighting through to the end, we can actually, actually get the wins in these sorts of games. And yeah, look, we're 2 points behind Reading, so if we do beat them, we jump ahead of them in the table, which would be pretty awesome. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like, it was a 10-minute sort of patch this morning where it wasn't even like we played that poorly. It was just that, you know, they took advantage of one of those sort of lapses for the first goal, and then a bit of poor defending from Greaves for the second. But on the whole, we kind of kept fighting through that. We still looked quite good and promising and attacking. So it's not a particularly strong Reading side. And we were reminded of, we got the 1-1 draw at their place last year where I think Wilkes got that long range goal after Bernard had 2 or 3 different penalty shouts waved away, which was always fun. And then we had a 3-0 win at home against them as well. So match up reasonably well against them, and should hopefully be able to get the job done at home in this one.
Yes. Let's go 3 points. We'll start Rosenior's tenure off with 7 points from his 3 games. And
it's his first game at home as well for him. Would be awesome.
Yeah, actually, that. I think that homegrown. I know Dawson was like homegrown, but I don't think he necessarily wanted. He did the job, but he didn't really give the indication that he wanted to be like the full-time manager. But we've got a guy who, you know, played for the club, loves the club, wants to be the manager, wants to lead us in the right direction, and has come in. And I think that sort of positivity and that sort of, like, really seems to have rubbed off on everyone. And I really do hope that they they get a good crowd there, a few chants at, Unans and Hull or whatever. But no, it's weird how much that got referenced, even like in the stuff, like just other players and like that used to play it with saying like, oh yeah. But I think realistically, it's the sort of appointment that should get everyone rallied around the club again. I mean, it's been a good season, and it seems like everyone has really rallied around it. Like, the attendance has been growing and growing, and it's been really good. But I think this again, like, got shaky, I guess, towards the end of Shotter's tenure. So I think this is an opportunity to galvanise that support again for a big second half of the season and push towards whatever we're pushing towards. It'd be nice to say top 6, but I feel like we've sort of perhaps done ourselves a bit of damage in that regard already. It's not unattainable by any stretch with 20 games or 21 games or whatever it is to go. It is, but like, just that point, whereas a few weeks ago we were saying, oh, it's only like 6 points to the top 6 and 7 points to the bottom 3, and now it's 10 or 11 or something. We've got to win. We're closer to the bottom than the top now.
That's right. Well, I mean, we're 7 points off 6th, and then you kind of assume that they're going to pick up points in the meantime as well. So it's not as if it's just 2 or 3 wins to get there. It's more like 5 or 6 in a row just to be sort of back on track, and then you kind of got to get back to the same sort of form as them. So you're looking at like 2 or 3 points a game almost from here for the next sort of 10 games. I mean, I think like Rosenior said in his opening press conference, though, it was a really good point about, it's not a relegation battle or a promotion race at this stage of the season. It's just a points accumulation. So, on that point, it's just about getting as many points on the board as you can, starting with these 3 points against Reading. Would you make any changes to the side? I mean, for me, potentially you take Figueiredo out for, I'd almost say you want to give McLaughlin a go back in the back line. Just because we just haven't seen a whole lot of him, and I feel like he can't do worse than Figueiredo, but I don't know.
Yeah, I got really excited when McLaughlin got his 5-minute cameo or whatever. I think it was against Milwall late in the game, came on for a little bit, and I was like, oh, he's getting. I mean, it's not much, but this is something to work from, and then just gone again. So, I don't. I mean, there must be something, because basically he's sort of been in that position where he's been around the bench all season and never looked like making a move into the first 11, even though the defense hasn't been particularly solid we've got the worst defense in the league, I think, or the worst goal difference anyway. So there must be something else that the managers are seeing or something. But as you say, like Figueiredo for the most part has looked fairly shaky on the ball, fairly, I think, non-committal towards like making a decision. I think that's the biggest thing, is hesitancy to make a decision and stick with it. Sort of dawdles on the ball a bit, which is scary at times. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I sort of go, oh, it'd be good to see Cynic get a start, but then I go, well, who would I take out? It's not like anyone's been performing poorly over the last couple of games. I think. Yeah,
that's right.
I guess it would. I guess that the only thing I could say for rotation would be that this would be 3 games a week. So maybe just to stop anyone taking an injury into that, month long of training, because I assume you still want everyone fit for that, because get everyone as much time on the pitch working on some of those things, like that playing out from the back versus playing around at the back, or a month to work on that. It could very well look like a very different side come the Watford game in just over a month. So
yeah, that's right. And whether you put Cynic in the side in that number 10 role and you put Pelkas to striker and you rotate Longman out, or you move Slater back into a more central role and you take, it's tough. Woods out, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Woods hasn't been particularly poor. I mean, there's a few different combinations you can work, but it's just like it's such a strange one where it's almost like a game of Ultimate Team on FIFA, where I feel like you've got these different chemistries where certain players work well with each other, but not with other combinations, where like you can't have Tufan and Seri together, but you could have Woods and Seri together, but you can't have Pelkas and Cynic together. It's such a strange sort of like you sort of said at the start, like it's about finding that right combination. It feels like we've got the balance right now.
Yeah, which is weird because you don't want these players out of position. But
it's so
strange to be like we're playing our centre midfielders as wingers, and that seems to be the system that's working for us.
That's right. Well, what's your score prediction for this one? I'm backing a clean sheet. I reckon a 2-0 win at home.
Oh, that's what I was just about to say. I'm feeling like the Milwall game was really good, and I think we'll learn some lessons. I know it's only a couple of days sort of break, but there's lessons to be learned and things that are definitely going to get highlighted about the goals conceded this morning and some of those moments of play where we almost gifted them some really gilt-edged opportunities. And so I think there'll be, hopefully, that'll be something that will look a little bit better, a little bit crisper for the Reading game. But I reckon we can get another clean sheet. So
it'd be nice to get
a 2-0 as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a clean sheet and a win in this one as a good way to sign off before the World Cup break. But we'll sign off now for this episode. So thank you for joining me, Dan.
No, that's all right. Anytime.
No worries, and thanks everyone for listening in. We'll do one final episode next week to review the Reading game before the World Cup break. We'll try and get some content out during the World Cup break as well. We'll probably do a few more of our flashback episodes to 2014-15 season under Steve Bruce. So we had our brief sojourn into Europe. It'll be nice to look back on and see how we go from there. But until next time, until next week, come on, City.